My name is Rachel Miller, and I'm 32 years old. They say blood is thicker than water. But what happens when your own family stages a public intervention for your imaginary boyfriend at your sister's engagement party? When 50 guests watch your mother call you delusional while your sister films it for her Instagram followers? I stayed silent through every cruel joke, every mocking toast, every suggestion that I needed therapy for my fantasies. I didn't defend myself once, not even when they laughed at the very idea someone successful could love me. Then a helicopter landed in the garden. Before we dive into what happened that night, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy this story. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Drop it in the comments below. Now let me tell you how one helicopter changed everything. Growing up as the older daughter in the Miller family meant living in a constant state of comparison. While my younger sister Emma built her Instagram empire with 200,000 followers, showcasing luxury hauls and sponsored brunches, I spent 12-hour shifts in the emergency room holding the hands of terrified patients. But guess which daughter my mother Margaret bragged about at her book club? Emma's engagement rate is through the roof this month, Mom would say, while I literally saved lives performing CPR. My father Tom just nodded along, never contradicting his wife, even when her favoritism cut deep enough to leave scars. The family dynamics were established early. Emma was the golden child, beautiful, social, engaged to a tech entrepreneur named Brad, who drove a Tesla and name-dropped constantly. I was the disappointment, single at 32, wasting my intelligence on nursing instead of pursuing something ambitious like Emma's influencer career. At family dinners, the conversation inevitably turned to my love life. Maybe if you didn't work such terrible hours, Mom would suggest. Men want women who are available, Rachel, who prioritize relationships. I prioritize saving lives, Mom. That's very noble, dear, but it won't keep you warm at night. My extended family absorbed this narrative completely. At every gathering, aunts clutched my hands with pitying looks. Cousins whispered about setting me up with their divorced friends. Even my sister-in-law Jessica, a successful lawyer, joined the chorus. You know, Rachel, there are apps now, very sophisticated algorithms. The irony was suffocating. While they painted me as the family failure, I'd been promoted to head nurse of the trauma unit. While they worried about my empty bed, I'd been building something beautiful with someone who saw my worth beyond Instagram metrics. But I kept quiet. I had my reasons. 6 months ago, I made a mistake. During Thanksgiving dinner, exhausted from a particularly brutal shift where we'd lost a young patient, I finally snapped when Mom started her usual interrogation. I'm seeing someone, I said quietly. The table went silent, forks suspended midair. Emma actually looked up from her phone. What? Mom's voice pitched high with disbelief. Since when? A few months. I kept my eyes on my plate. His name is David. The questions came rapid fire. What does he do? Where did you meet? Why haven't we met him? Show us a picture. He values privacy, I said carefully. We're taking things slow. Emma snorted. Translation, he's married. He's not married. Then why the secrecy? Jessica leaned forward, her lawyer instincts activated. This sounds suspicious, Rachel. I could have explained everything right then. How David and I needed to keep our relationship quiet for professional reasons. How dating your hospital system's CEO came with complications. How I'd worked too hard to be respected on my own merits to suddenly become the boss's girlfriend. Instead, I simply said, I have my reasons for keeping things private. Mom's expression shifted from surprise to skepticism. Well, when do we meet this mysterious David? When the time is right. That was all it took. Within days, Mom had convinced herself I'd invented David to stop the pitying looks. She told her sister, who told her daughters, who told everyone else. The family WhatsApp group buzzed with concern about Rachel's situation. Emma made it worse, naturally. She posted a TikTok about supporting family members through delusions that got 50,000 views. She didn't use my name, but everyone knew. The narrative was set. Poor Rachel, so desperate she'd invented a boyfriend. 3 weeks ago, Emma announced her engagement to Brad with a professionally shot video that went viral. The ring was massive, the proposal elaborate, and Mom couldn't stop gushing about finally having a wedding to plan. "You'll be my maid of honor, right?" Emma asked during our monthly obligatory sister lunch. I mean, assuming you can get time off work. "Of course," I said, genuinely happy for her despite everything. "And you'll bring David to the engagement party?" Her smile had an edge. "I mean, he does exist, right?" "He exists, Emma." "Then he'll come?" "Mom's already told everyone about your boyfriend. It would be weird if he didn't show." I hesitated. David was in the middle of a massive merger, flying between Tokyo and New York constantly. "He's traveling a lot for work right now." "Of course he is." Emma's laugh was sharp. "How convenient." Mom called that night. "Rachel, this is getting embarrassing. Emma's future in-laws will be there. Brad's business partners. We can't have you showing up alone while everyone whispers about your imaginary relationship." "He might be in Tokyo." "Tokyo. Right. You know what? Just admit it, honey. There's no shame in being single. But these lies have to stop." "I'm not lying, Mom." "Then bring him. 2 weeks, Rachel. The party's at the Ritz-Carlton. If David is real, he'll make time for something this important." I texted David that night. "Family engagement party in 2 weeks. They think you're imaginary." His response was immediate. "I'll handle it. You don't have to come. I know Tokyo is—" "Rachel, I said I'll handle it." Mom's smile when I confirmed David couldn't make it should have warned me. That wasn't disappointment on her face. It was satisfaction. The 2 weeks before Emma's party became a masterclass in social pressure. Mom had apparently briefed everyone in our extended network about my situation, and suddenly I couldn't go anywhere without encountering well-meaning interventions. At the hospital, rumors started circulating. A colleague mentioned hearing I was going through something personal. Dr. Kim, my attending physician, pulled me aside after rounds. "Rachel, is everything okay?" Someone mentioned family stress. I kept my voice steady. "Just family being family." She gave me a knowing look but said nothing more. Dr. Kim had worked with me for 5 years. She knew my worth wasn't measured in relationship status, even if my family didn't. My cousin Sarah called, voice dripping with fake concern. "Aunt Margaret told me about your situation. You know, making up a boyfriend isn't healthy, Rachel. Have you considered therapy?" "I'm not making anything up, Sarah. It's okay to admit you're lonely. We all go through rough patches." The worst part was the pity. Every interaction came wrapped in condescension, as if being single at 32 was a terminal diagnosis. As if my years of education, my career saves lives, my apartment I'd bought myself. None of it mattered without a ring on my finger. My phone buzzed constantly with helpful messages, links to dating apps, therapist recommendations, an article about accepting your reality from Jessica. Even Brad, Emma's fiancé, cornered me at a family dinner. "Hey, I have this friend from business school, recently divorced but a good guy. Want me to set something up?" "I'm in a relationship, Brad." His pitying smile made me want to scream. "Right, David from Tokyo." The pressure was exhausting. But every night, David called from whatever time zone he was in, his voice steady and sure. "Let them think what they want. We know the truth." 3 nights before the party, David called from his Tokyo hotel. "I can send them proof right now. One email to your mother with photos, my LinkedIn, everything. End this tonight." I stared at the ceiling of my bedroom, phone pressed to my ear. No. Rachel, if I do that, I become the woman who only has value because of who she's dating. Every accomplishment I've earned gets rewritten. Suddenly, I'm not head nurse Rachel who earned her position through merit. I'm the CEO's girlfriend who probably got special treatment. You know that's not true. I know. You know. But they'll always wonder. My colleagues will whisper. My family will think you're the reason I'm somebody. I took a breath. I've worked 12 years to build my reputation. I won't let them diminish that. David was quiet for a moment. So, we let them humiliate you? They're already trying. Showing proof now just validates their belief that I need external validation to have worth. What if I just show up? No announcement, no drama, just walk in. I smiled despite everything. You have the Tokyo merger. I could end it with one phone call, he said, echoing my thoughts. Just like you could end this circus with one photo. But we're both choosing the harder path, aren't we? I need to face them on my terms. When they see you, if they see you, it has to be organic, natural, not because they demanded proof like I'm a child caught lying. Your dignity matters more than their opinion, David said softly. I love that about you. But Rachel, if they cross a line, then we handle it. Together. But for now, I choose silence. It wasn't about protecting David anymore. It was about protecting myself, my integrity, my self-worth, my right to privacy. If you've ever been in a situation where your family didn't believe you, type "believe" in the comments. I'm curious, would you have revealed the truth immediately or waited like I did? Also, where are you watching from? I love connecting with viewers worldwide. It's currently 3 p.m. here in Boston as I share this story, and I wonder what time zones you're all in. Don't forget to hit that like button if you're enjoying the story so far. It really helps the channel grow. Now, let me tell you about the morning everything changed. The morning of Emma's engagement party, I woke to 17 messages from family members. The group chat was buzzing with excitement about the intervention they'd planned. My aunt had accidentally included me in a thread meant for everyone except me. We need to address Rachel's fantasy tonight. It's gone too far. Margaret's right. Tough love is necessary. Poor thing. She must be so lonely to create this elaborate lie. I deleted the thread without responding and got ready for my shift. The hospital was my sanctuary, a place where my worth was measured in lives saved, not relationship status. My phone rang as I was leaving the trauma unit. David's name lit up the screen. How are you holding up? His voice carried across from Tokyo, warm despite the distance. They're planning something, an intervention, apparently. I can still make it. The merger can wait. No, I was firm. Close your deal. I can handle my family. Rachel, you don't have to prove anything to anyone. I'm not proving anything. I'm just existing. If they can't handle that without public humiliation, that's their choice. Pack the blue box, he said suddenly. What? The Tiffany box in your closet, the one I gave you last month. Pack it in your purse. David, what are you? Trust me. Whatever happens tonight, remember I love you for who you are, not what they think. After we hung up, I found the box he mentioned, a small blue cube I'd forgotten about, containing the engagement ring he'd proposed with privately, away from everyone's eyes. We'd decided to wait for the right moment to go public. I slipped it into my purse, not knowing why he wanted me to bring it. Looking back now, I should have recognized the determination in his voice. David Harrison didn't become CEO by accepting defeat. The Ritz-Carlton ballroom gleamed with Emma's signature aesthetic, rose gold everything, photographers stationed at the entrance, a hashtag sign that read, #Bratted to Emma. I arrived at 7 p.m. sharp, wearing a simple navy dress that probably cost less than one of Emma's sponsored handbags. Rachel, my cousin Kevin was the first to greet me, his eyes scanning behind me. Flying solo? David sends his regards. Work emergency in Tokyo. Kevin's expression shifted to pity. Right, Tokyo. The whispers started before I even reached the gift table. Aunts exchanged knowing looks. Emma's influencer friends held up phones already recording for their stories. I recognized the setup immediately. I wasn't a guest. I was content. Emma floated over in a designer dress, her smile camera-ready. "Rachel, so glad you could make it." Her voice carried perfectly for the recording phones. "Such a shame David couldn't join us. Again." "Congratulations, Emma. You look beautiful." "Thanks. Brad's business partners are dying to meet your mysterious man. I've talked him up so much." Her laugh tinkled falsely. "Hope I didn't oversell someone I've never met." Mom appeared, champagne in hand, her expression triumphant. "Rachel, darling, let me guess. David had another emergency?" "A merger in Tokyo, actually." "How convenient. These emergencies always seem to happen during family events." Jessica joined our circle, her lawyer instincts sensing blood. "You know, Rachel, false representations can become habitual. It's actually quite fascinating from a psychological perspective." I accepted a glass of water from a passing server, keeping my expression neutral. The ballroom filled steadily, 50 guests, all seemingly briefed on the evening's entertainment, watching Rachel Miller get exposed. Brad's business partners kept glancing over. Emma's friends whispered behind manicured hands. Even the servers seemed aware something was brewing. I checked my phone. 7:15 p.m. No messages from David, just me alone surrounded by sharks who smelled blood. By 7:30, the interrogation began in earnest. My Aunt Patricia, Mom's older sister, cornered me by the dessert table with an audience of cousins. "So, Rachel, tell us about David. What does he do exactly?" "He works in healthcare administration." "How specific?" Her smile was sharp. "And you met where?" "Through work." Emma appeared with her phone raised. "Ooh, tell them the Tokyo story, Rachel. It's fascinating." She turned to her followers. "My sister claims her boyfriend is closing deals in Tokyo. International man of mystery, right?" "It's not a claim," I said quietly. "Then show us one photo." Emma's voice carried across the room. "Just one. Surely you have couple photos after, what, 6 months, 8 months? We value privacy." Jessica laughed. "Privacy? Or fiction? Come on, Rachel. We're family. If he existed, you'd have evidence." The circle tightened. Brad's partners watched with amusement. Mom stood back, letting others do the attacking while she played concerned parent. "Maybe she's being catfished," someone suggested. "Maybe she's having a breakdown," another whispered. Emma zoomed her camera on my face. "For someone in love, you look pretty alone, Rach." "At least my relationship isn't performed for strangers' validation," I said evenly. Emma's smile faltered for a second, then brightened. "Hard to perform something that doesn't exist." The laughter rippled through the crowd. Someone started a live stream. Another suggested calling this David right now, put him on speaker. The feeding frenzy was building. Mom stepped forward, concern painted on her face. "Sweetheart, this has gone far enough. Just admit the truth. We'll support you through this delusion." I glanced at my phone, 7:45 p.m. Still nothing from David. The crowd pressed closer, phones recording, waiting for me to break. Instead, I took a sip of water and checked the time again. At 7:47 p.m., Mom clinked her champagne glass with a spoon. The room quieted, everyone sensing the main event was beginning. "Before we toast Emma and Brad," Mom began, her voice carrying perfectly, "I want to address something important. Family means honesty. It means supporting each other through difficulties." She looked directly at me. "Rachel, sweetheart, we're all here because we love you. This fantasy about David has gone on long enough. It's not healthy, and frankly, it's embarrassing for everyone." 50 pairs of eyes turned to me. Emma's phone captured every second. Brad's partners exchanged amused glances. "We've all tried to be patient," Mom continued, "but watching you lie, watching you create this elaborate fiction, it breaks my heart. You're 32 years old, honey. It's time to face reality." "What reality is that, Mom?" My voice stayed level. "That you're single, that you're lonely, that you need help." She gestured to the crowd. "Everyone here wants to support you through this crisis. Dr. Brennan," she pointed to her therapist friend, has agreed to see you. Pro bono. The humiliation was surgical, precise, every word chosen to cut while maintaining the facade of concern. Jessica stood. As a lawyer, I can tell you that pathological lying often escalates. We're doing this because we care. An intervention, Emma added helpfully. This is your intervention, Rachel. I looked at my phone, 7:49 p.m. Then I looked at the window. The sun was setting over the garden, and something in the distance caught my eye. A small black dot growing larger against the orange sky. 3 more minutes, I said quietly. 3 minutes for what? Mom demanded. I didn't answer, just watched the dot grow larger, the sound of rotor blades becoming audible through the ballroom's glass walls. The crowd hadn't noticed yet. They were too focused on their prey. My phone buzzed at exactly 7:50 p.m. The screen lit up with a message that made me smile for the first time all evening. ETA 2 minutes. Security cleared. Blue box ready? I typed back quickly. Ready. They're mid-intervention. Perfect timing then. Jessica noticed my expression change. Who are you texting? Your imaginary boyfriend? Actually, yes. The crowd laughed. Emma zoomed in on my phone. Guys, she's literally texting herself now. This is so sad. Another message appeared. Garden entrance. Tell security Mr. Harrison arriving. I stood, slipping my phone into my purse. Excuse me for a moment. Where are you going? Mom's voice sharpened. We're not done here. Just getting some air. The intervention is a bit suffocating. You can't just walk away from this, Rachel. Emma followed me toward the door. We're trying to help you. I paused at the security desk by the ballroom entrance. Mr. Harrison will be arriving shortly. He's expected. The security guard checked his tablet, then nodded. Yes, Ms. Miller. Mr. Harrison from Meridian Health. Helicopter landing approved for 7:52 p.m. Emma froze. What? The guard continued, unaware of the bomb he'd just dropped. Should we escort him directly to the ballroom? That won't be necessary, he knows the way. I turned back to Emma, whose face had gone pale. Behind her, through the ballroom's floor-to-ceiling windows, guests were starting to notice the sound. A rhythmic thrum growing louder, accompanied by wind that sent the garden's decorative lights swaying. That's not... Emma's voice trailed off. Not what? I asked calmly. Not possible? Not real? The helicopter was clearly visible now, descending toward the hotel's private landing pad. The Meridian Health logo gleamed on its side. Mom pushed through the crowd. What's happening? What's that noise? The ballroom erupted in confusion as the helicopter's rotor wash sent the garden into chaos. Tablecloths fluttered, lights swayed, and every guest pressed against the windows to watch the spectacle. Is someone hurt? Aunt Patricia gasped. Why is a medical helicopter here? Brad, trying to maintain his composure, announced, Must be for the hospital next door. Everyone please, back to the party. But the helicopter wasn't heading to the hospital. It descended directly onto the Ritz-Carlton's manicured lawn, the Meridian Health logo now impossible to miss. That's the company that owns 12 hospitals, someone whispered. My wife works for them. The hotel manager appeared suddenly, speaking rapidly into his earpiece. 2 security guards materialized, opening the garden doors. The hotel staff moved with the practiced efficiency reserved for VIP arrivals. Mr. Harrison's party? The manager asked me directly. I nodded. He's with me. Mom's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Emma dropped her phone, the live stream still running as it clattered to the floor. Through the glass, we watched the helicopter's door open. A man in an impeccably tailored suit stepped out, followed by an assistant carrying several gift boxes. Even from a distance, David commanded attention, tall, confident, moving with purpose toward the building. Is that... Jessica's voice cracked. Is that David Harrison, the CEO of Meridian? No way, Brad said weakly. That's a billionaire. He was just featured in Forbes. The whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire. The David Harrison? Didn't his company just acquire Boston General? My cousin interviewed for his executive team. Why is he here? I watched David approach, his eyes finding mine through the glass. He smiled. That private smile meant only for me, and suddenly every humiliation of the evening felt worth it. That's my imaginary boyfriend, I said quietly. The next part is my favorite moment in this whole story. If you've been waiting for the tables to turn, you're about to be satisfied. Quick question. Have you ever had a moment where you proved everyone wrong? Share it in the comments. I love reading about those vindication moments. And if you're new here, this is your sign to subscribe. We share stories of quiet victories every week. Trust me, what happens next is something my family still can't believe happened. Let's get back to that ballroom where 50 people were about to eat their words. The ballroom descended into complete chaos. Emma scrambled for her phone, trying to salvage her live stream. Mom stood frozen, champagne glass trembling in her hand. The intervention had transformed into something else entirely. 50 people watching their assumptions shatter in real time. Everyone, please! Brad attempted to restore order. Let's not jump to conclusions. That's definitely David Harrison, a guest confirmed, showing his phone screen. Here's his LinkedIn, CEO of Meridian Health Systems. Through the windows, David had reached the garden entrance. The hotel manager personally held the door, bowing slightly. Behind David, his assistant carried distinctive Tiffany boxes and what appeared to be a bouquet of white orchids, my favorite flowers, though I'd never told my family that. This has to be a coincidence, Mom said desperately. He's probably here for another event. The ballroom doors opened. David entered with the quiet confidence of someone who'd walked into 1,000 boardrooms. His eyes swept the room once, cataloging everything, before landing on me. His expression softened immediately. There you are, he said, crossing the room in long strides, ignoring everyone else. I'm sorry I'm late, darling. Tokyo ran longer than expected. He pulled me into his arms and kissed me. Not a show, not a performance, just David kissing me like he had 100 times before. Like we were alone in my apartment instead of surrounded by 50 stunned witnesses. How was your shift? He asked when we parted, his hand still on my waist. Did that trauma patient from yesterday pull through? I nodded, speechless for the first time all evening. Not because of the crowd, but because somehow, despite the merger and the time zones and the chaos, he'd made it. Good. He finally acknowledged the room, his CEO presence filling the space. You must be Margaret. Rachel speaks of you often. But before David could say more, Mom found her voice, and it was sharp with desperation. This is ridiculous, she announced to the room. Rachel hiring an actor? Really? How much did this cost? The helicopter, the suit? This is pathetic, even for you. The crowd stirred uncomfortably. Some pulled out phones again, sensing more drama. Emma rallied beside Mom. Guys, my sister literally hired someone to pretend to be her boyfriend. This is insane. Check this out. She held up her phone to her followers. The lengths people go to avoid admitting they're alone. I think we need to call someone, Jessica said loudly. This is delusional behavior. She's hiring actors now? Rachel needs professional help. Aunt Patricia joined in. Sweetheart, this is rock bottom. Faking a relationship is one thing, but this elaborate production? How did you even afford this? Mom demanded. Nurses don't make helicopter money. Did you take out loans? Oh God, Rachel, are you in debt for this charade? The pile-on continued, each family member adding their theory. She probably found him on Craigslist or one of those escort sites. The helicopter's probably rented by the hour. This is actually concerning behavior. My cousin filmed everything, narrating. My cousin hired a fake boyfriend with a helicopter. You can't make this up. David watched it all with remarkable composure, though I felt his hand tighten slightly on my waist. He let them finish, let them exhaust their theories and accusations, let them dig their hole deeper and deeper. Finally, when Mom suggested calling security to remove the hired actor, David spoke. Ms. Chen, he said to Jessica, his voice carrying that CEO authority I'd heard him use in board meetings. As a lawyer, you should know that slander has consequences, especially when it's being broadcast live. David released me gently and walked to where his assistant waited. Each step was measured, deliberate, the walk of someone who owned every room he entered. The crowd parted instinctively. "Before we address the elephant in the room," he said, accepting a leather portfolio from his assistant, "I should introduce myself properly." He pulled out a business card, handing it to Jessica first. "David Harrison, CEO, Meridian Health Systems. You may know us. We employ about 12,000 people in Massachusetts, including your cousin Rachel." Jessica's face went white as she read the card. Her hand shook slightly. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Google me," David suggested mildly. "I'll wait." Phones came out across the room. The silence was deafening as 50 people simultaneously discovered the truth. Someone gasped. Another whispered, "Net worth of—" Brad was the first to speak. You're really David Harrison, the one who just closed the Tokyo merger with Yamamoto Medical." "Closed it this morning, actually." David glanced at his watch. "Flew directly here. Couldn't miss meeting Rachel's family, though I admit this isn't quite what I expected." "But why—" Mom's voice was strangled. "Why didn't she tell us?" David's expression hardened slightly. "You mean why didn't she brag about dating someone with money? Why didn't she use my name for social capital? Because that's not who Rachel is." He walked back to me, taking my hand. "Your daughter saved my mother's life 18 months ago. Cardiac arrest in your ER. Rachel ran the code that brought her back. That's how we met. Me, terrified in a waiting room, and Rachel, calmly explaining that my mother would live because of her team's skill." The room absorbed this information in stunned silence. Emma's live stream viewers were going wild in the comments, but she stood frozen, unable to speak. David reached into his jacket and pulled out a small blue box. Not the one in my purse, but another one. He opened it, revealing a stunning diamond bracelet. "This was supposed to be for our announcement," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Rachel and I have been together for 2 years. We've been engaged for 3 months." Gasps rippled through the room. Mom sank into a chair. "2 years?" Emma's voice cracked. "2 years," David confirmed, "during which Rachel insisted on keeping our relationship private at work. She didn't want anyone thinking she'd earned her promotion to head nurse through nepotism. She earned it through merit, something this family apparently struggles to recognize." He fastened the bracelet on my wrist, then pulled me close. "You asked why I wasn't at family events? Rachel never invited me. She said you wouldn't believe her anyway. After tonight, I understand why." "We would have—" Mom started. "Would have what?" David's voice was ice. "Believed her? Treated her with respect? You had 2 years of opportunities. Instead, you chose to humiliate her, film her, stage an intervention, call her delusional." He turned to the crowd. "Everyone here participated in trying to destroy someone's dignity for entertainment. You filmed it, streamed it, laughed at it. The woman who saves lives every day, who holds dying patients' hands, who your own family members might one day depend on, you tried to break her for content." Jessica stepped forward. "Mr. Harrison, we didn't know—" "Exactly," David said simply. "You didn't know. But instead of trust, instead of basic human decency, you chose cruelty." Rachel's silence wasn't deception. It was dignity, something apparently foreign to this family. The blue Tiffany box in my purse felt heavier now, knowing what David had planned versus what he'd walked into. David's assistant stepped forward with the gifts, and David's entire demeanor shifted, from protective partner to the CEO addressing a room. "Despite tonight's unexpected welcome, I brought gifts. Rachel told me about each of you, you see. She spoke kindly, even when you didn't deserve it." He pulled out an envelope first. "Emma, Rachel mentioned you're passionate about charity work for your social media. I've made a donation of $50,000 to the Children's Hospital in your name. They'll be featuring you in their next campaign." Emma's mouth opened but no sound came out. Margaret, Tom, Rachel said you've dreamed of visiting Greece. There's a 2-week cruise package here departing next month. First class. Mom's hands trembled as she accepted the envelope. The truth is, David continued, I've heard about all of you for 2 years. Rachel shares stories after her shifts. How Emma is building her brand. I've even had my marketing team follow your work. How her mother volunteers at church. How her father restored that classic car. He paused, letting it sink in. She never once mentioned the cruelty, the comparisons, the dismissive comments about her career. I learned about those from other sources. Other sources? Jessica asked weakly. I had my security team run background after Rachel mentioned the Thanksgiving incident. Imagine my surprise finding Emma's TikTok about supporting delusional family members, or the family group chat screenshots that somehow circulated, planning tonight's intervention. Brad shifted uncomfortably. You had us investigated? I protect what's mine, David said simply. Rachel didn't want me to intervene. She said family was complicated, that you'd come around eventually. She had more faith in you than you deserved. He took my hand again. But after tonight, after watching you try to destroy her publicly, that faith might have been misplaced. David continued distributing gifts with surgical precision, each one revealing how much Rachel had shared despite their treatment of her. Brad, Rachel mentioned you're trying to get your startup funded. I've arranged a meeting with our venture capital partner, Monday, 2 p.m. Don't be late. Brad's face cycled through emotions, gratitude, shame, confusion. Jessica, there's a position opening in our legal department. Healthcare law specialization. Rachel thought you'd be perfect for it. The application is in your envelope should you choose to apply. With each gift, the room grew quieter. The reality was setting in. Rachel had spoken positively about them to a billionaire CEO while they'd plotted her humiliation. Kevin, David called to my cousin who'd been filming. Rachel says you're the only one who defended her at Thanksgiving. Thank you for that. There's a check in here for your student loans. She mentioned you were struggling. Kevin's eyes filled with tears. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I should have done more. The saddest part, David addressed the room again, is that Rachel insisted on keeping these gifts anonymous. She didn't want you to feel obligated to her. Even after everything, she wanted to help without strings attached. He pulled out his phone, showing it to the crowd. This is our photo from 6 months ago, at the medical charity gala. Rachel wore scrubs because she'd come straight from saving a child's life. She could have worn designer gowns every day if she'd wanted. Instead, she chose to keep working, keep serving, keep being the person you all failed to see. Mom finally found her voice. We couldn't have known. Because you never asked with genuine interest. You asked to judge, to compare, to humiliate. There's a difference. Jessica, still processing, made the mistake of pushing further. But surely you understand our concern. A secret relationship for 2 years. Secret? David's voice could have frozen fire. Or private? There's a distinction, counselor. He pulled out another business card, this time his own, and handed it to her. Read the company name again. Meridian Health Systems, Jessica read slowly. Rachel's employer, where she's worked for 12 years, where she earned her position as head nurse through dedication, not nepotism. Now imagine if everyone knew she was dating the CEO, every achievement questioned, every promotion scrutinized, every colleague wondering if she earned it or slept her way to it. The implications hit Jessica like a physical blow. The videos, Emma's live stream. This is Rachel's workplace. Correct. You've been publicly harassing an employee of mine at a recorded event with dozens of witnesses. You've accused her of mental illness, suggested she needs psychiatric intervention, and attempted to humiliate her professionally and personally. Emma's phone clattered to the floor again. Oh God, the live stream. My followers include people from the hospital, about 15,000 of them according to my social media team, David confirmed. Nurses, doctors, administrators who now have video evidence of you attacking their colleague. Their respected head nurse, who has saved more lives than you have Instagram followers. Delete it, Mom gasped at Emma. Delete everything now. It's been live for an hour, Emma whispered. It's already been screen recorded, shared. David smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Interesting how quickly the intervention became damage control. Rachel won't sue you. She's too kind for that. But I wonder how your brands will feel, Emma, when they realize you've been cyberbullying a healthcare hero. How will your followers react when they learn the truth? I stood then, finally ready to speak. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. Emma, I said calmly, congratulations on your engagement. Brad seems wonderful, and I genuinely wish you both happiness. I turned to my parents. Mom, Dad, thank you for the invitation tonight. It's been illuminating. Rachel, wait, Mom started. I've waited 2 years, I said quietly. 2 years of being called delusional, desperate, pathetic. 2 years of defending my worth beyond my relationship status. I'm done waiting for you to see me. I took David's hand. We should go. This is Emma's night, and we've already taken too much attention from her celebration. You can't just leave, Emma protested, panic in her voice. We need to talk about this. The videos, the damage. What damage? I asked. To your follower count? To Mom's reputation at church? That's your concern to manage, not mine. Jessica stepped forward. Rachel, from a legal standpoint. From a legal standpoint, I interrupted. You participated in conspiracy to commit harassment. You're lucky I choose grace over litigation. David's assistant appeared with my coat. As David helped me into it, I addressed the room one final time. I saved lives today. A car accident victim, 6 years old. A grandmother with a heart attack. And teenager who attempted suicide. That's my reality. While you planned my humiliation, I was doing work that matters. I looked at Mom directly. You asked me to admit the truth? Here it is. I've been engaged to a wonderful man for 3 months. We're getting married in the spring, and you won't be invited. The silence was deafening. This is your night, Emma, I repeated. Enjoy it. Congratulations again. David and I walked toward the exit, heads high, hands intertwined. Mom caught us at the door, her face streaked with tears I didn't believe were genuine. Rachel, please, you can't just leave. We're family. Family? I turned back, my voice steady. Family believes each other. Family doesn't stage public interventions. Family doesn't film your humiliation for content. We were worried about you. No, Mom, you were embarrassed by me. There's a difference. Dad finally spoke, his voice rough. Princess, we made a mistake. You made a choice, I corrected. For 2 years, you chose mockery over trust. You chose Emma's narrative over my truth. You chose to believe I was so pathetic I'd invent a boyfriend rather than believe I might have value someone would recognize. How were we supposed to know? Mom demanded, desperation creeping in. You could have asked, really asked, with genuine interest, not interrogation. You could have said, tell us about David instead of prove he exists. You could have chosen love over judgment. David spoke then, his voice calm but firm. Check your phones tomorrow, all of you. There will be a formal communication from Meridian's legal department regarding the harassment videos. I suggest you prepare accordingly. You're going to sue us? Emma gasped, mascara running. I'm going to protect my fiancé's professional reputation, David replied. What you've done tonight has ramifications beyond this room. Rachel's colleagues, patients, and professional network have seen your videos. That requires addressing. I pulled out my phone, showing them my messages. 17 colleagues have already texted, 3 board members, the chief of surgery. They're all asking if I'm okay, if I need support, because that's what real support looks like. Checking in, not tearing down. Rachel, Mom reached for me, but I stepped back. Check your phones tomorrow, I repeated. All of you. As we reached the ballroom doors, David paused and pulled out an envelope from his inner pocket. I almost forgot, he said, turning back to the stunned crowd. Emma, Brad, this is for your wedding, a $100,000 donation to the charity of your choice, Rachel insisted we contribute something meaningful, despite everything. He placed the envelope on the gift table. She also wanted me to mention that the helicopter outside has a medical transport scheduled after this. We're delivering supplies to the rural hospital in Worcester. Because while you were planning an intervention, Rachel was planning interventions that actually save lives. The helicopter pilot appeared in the doorway. "Mr. Harrison, we're ready when you are." "Thank you, James." David turned to me. "Shall we? We have dinner reservations at 8:30. "Where?" I asked, genuinely curious since I hadn't known he was coming. "The quiet place you mentioned, where no one films, no one performs, and the food is actually about taste, not presentation." I smiled. He meant our favorite hole-in-the-wall Italian restaurant where the owner knew us by name and never once cared about David's net worth. As we walked through the garden toward the helicopter, guests pressed against the windows watching. David helped me into the aircraft with the same care he showed whether we were boarding helicopters or taking the subway. Before the door closed, I saw Kevin break from the crowd, running toward us. David held up a hand to the pilot waiting. "Rachel," Kevin called out. "I'm sorry. I should have stood up for you more. You deserved better from all of us." I nodded, accepting his apology. "Take care of yourself, Kevin. Use that loan money wisely." As the helicopter lifted off, I looked down at the Ritz-Carlton, at the faces pressed against the ballroom windows, at the life I was leaving behind. By the time we landed at Meridian's helipad, Emma's livestream had gone viral for all the wrong reasons. My phone buzzed constantly with notifications I chose to ignore until David and I were safely in his car. 3 million views, I read, scrolling through the chaos. The internet has opinions. The comments were brutal. "Imagine bullying a nurse who saves lives daily. The sister is an influencer? More like Mean Girl. That mom deserves a Worst Parent award. Hero nurse humiliated by family. This is disgusting." Emma's Instagram was hemorrhaging followers by the minute. Someone had created a compilation video. "Influencer Emma Miller bullies healthcare hero sister for views." Her brand partnerships were publicly distancing themselves. MAC Cosmetics posted, "We don't support bullying in any form." Fashion Nova removed her from their ambassador list. Kevin had posted his own video, a confession of sorts. I stood by while my cousin was attacked. "I'm part of the problem. Rachel, if you see this, you're the best of us. You always were." But the real damage came from the healthcare community. Nurses across the country were sharing the video with fury. The hashtag #StandWithRachel was trending. Medical professionals posted their own stories of being diminished by family who didn't understand their work. Dr. Kim had written a lengthy LinkedIn post. "Rachel Miller is the finest nurse I've worked with in 20 years. While her family mocked her, she was perfecting procedures that have saved countless lives. She never mentioned her relationship with our CEO because she wanted to earn respect through merit. Tonight's display shows why she was right to protect her privacy." The hospital's official account posted, "We stand with our head nurse Rachel Miller. Healthcare heroes deserve respect, not ridicule. We're reviewing all harassment directed at our staff." Mom's church friends were already commenting. Her book club group chat had been screenshotted and shared. They were reconsidering her membership. Monday morning at the hospital was surreal. I'd expected awkwardness, whispers, maybe pity. Instead, I walked into a standing ovation in the trauma unit. "About damn time someone knew your worth," Dr. Kim said, hugging me tight. "Though I have to say, keeping Harrison a secret for 2 years, that takes skill." My colleague Sarah laughed. "We all suspected something. You'd smile at your phone in a way that meant someone special. But the CEO? Girl, you're legendary." What struck me most was the respect. Not for dating David, but for how I'd handled it. Nurses came up throughout the day sharing their own stories of being undervalued by family. The janitor, Marcus, stopped me in the hallway. "My family thinks I'm wasting my life here," he said quietly. "But you see me, head nurse Miller. You always have." That video made me realize we don't need their validation. The board called an emergency meeting. I thought I was in trouble until I walked in to find them all smiling. Rachel, the chief of staff began, we've been planning to announce your promotion to Director of Emergency Services for weeks. David recused himself from the decision, obviously. You earned this entirely on merit. He slid a folder across the table. Your new salary, benefits, and the interesting part, you'll be implementing your trauma protocol system-wide. The one you developed, the one that's reduced mortality by 30%. We were waiting for the right moment to announce it, another board member added. But after this weekend's events, we think now is perfect. Let everyone know that Rachel Miller's value has nothing to do with who she dates, and everything to do with who she is. I signed the papers with hands that barely shook, thinking of Mom's words about ambition, about success, about worth. The family fallout was swift and merciless. Emma called me crying Tuesday night, her influencer career in ruins. Rachel, you have to help me. I've lost everything. 80,000 followers gone. Every brand dropped me. Brad's reconsidering the wedding. Why would Brad reconsider? I asked, though I suspected. His investors saw the video. They think I'm a liability, a bully. He says he needs space to think. I let the silence stretch before responding. Emma, you live-streamed my humiliation to 200,000 people. What did you expect? I didn't know he was real. That's the point. You didn't know, but instead of trust, you chose cruelty. Instead of support, you chose content. Mom's situation was equally dire. The church committee had asked her to step down from her volunteer position. The book club formally uninvited her. Dad's golf buddies wouldn't return his calls. Apparently, several were patients at Meridian facilities. Jessica called next, panic in her voice. Rachel, the firm put me on administrative leave. They say participating in harassment of a healthcare worker shows poor judgment. Can David call them? Why would David help you? I asked, genuinely curious. Because we're family. We were family when you called me delusional, when you suggested I needed psychiatric help, when you offered legal advice for my intervention. Family didn't matter then. The extended relatives were distancing themselves. Aunt Patricia posted a public apology I didn't read. Cousins who'd laughed at the party suddenly remembered how I'd helped them over the years. But the one that hurt most was Dad's voicemail. Princess, I failed you. I stayed silent when I should have defended you. I chose peace over principle. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know. I'm proud of you. Always have been. 6 months later, David and I married in the hospital chapel. 20 guests, all people who'd supported us before the world knew our truth. Dr. Kim officiated. She'd gotten ordained online specifically for us. Kevin stood as my man of honor, the only family member invited. You sure about this? David had asked when I'd chosen the venue. We could rent out anywhere. This is where we met, I reminded him. Where your mom got her second chance. Where I do work that matters. It's perfect. The ceremony was simple, authentic. No photographers except Kevin's phone. No designer dress. I wore my grandmother's wedding gown, altered to fit. David wore the same suit he'd worn to our first date, not the designer ones he owned for board meetings. My colleagues decorated the chapel with flowers from the gift shop. The reception was in the cafeteria, catered by the Italian restaurant where we'd had dinner after the engagement party disaster. The owner refused payment. For the couple who sees value in simplicity. During speeches, Dr. Kim said something that stayed with me. Rachel never needed David to be extraordinary. She already was. What she needed was someone who saw that truth without requiring proof. David's speech was short. Rachel saved my mother's life, but more than that, she saved mine from becoming about wealth instead of worth. She reminds me daily that the best things, love, respect, dignity, can't be bought or performed. They're earned in quiet moments of choosing character over comfort. Mom had sent a letter I didn't open. Emma posted about reflection and growth to her remaining followers. Dad sent a check I returned. But Kevin's toast made me cry. Rachel taught me that family isn't blood, it's who shows up. I'm honored she let me show up today. A year after the wedding, Mom's letter finally arrived through Kevin, the fifth she'd sent. This one was different. No excuses, no justifications, just truth. Rachel, I've been in therapy for 8 months. I'm learning about narcissistic family dynamics, about golden children and scapegoats. I was the problem. I created the problem. I perpetuated the problem. Emma was my mirror, reflecting what I wanted to see. You were my truth, showing what I was. I couldn't bear it, so I tried to diminish you. I'm sorry. Not for my reputation. That's gone. Not for sympathy. I don't deserve it. I'm sorry because I missed knowing the extraordinary woman you became. I missed it because I was too busy trying to force you to be less so. Emma could seem like more. If you never speak to me again, I understand. But please know, I see you now. Too late, but clearly. I read it to David that night. What do you think? I think therapy is working, but trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets, I finished. I know. I wrote back with conditions. 2 years of verified therapy, a written apology to my colleagues, no contact unless I initiate, never speak about me publicly again. Accept that forgiveness isn't guaranteed. Mom agreed to everything. Emma never apologized, still blaming me for her career collapse. Dad started sending letters I sometimes read. Updates about his life, memories of when I was young, no requests for forgiveness. Jessica found a new job in another state. The family WhatsApp group disbanded. Holiday gatherings happened without me, growing smaller each year as the truth about that night spread through extended family. Kevin visited monthly, becoming the brother I'd never had. He was earning his place in my chosen family through consistent action, not blood obligation. Looking back now, 3 years later, I realized the helicopter wasn't the vindication, it was the catalyst. The real victory was in the silence before it arrived, when I sat surrounded by mockery and chose dignity over defense. David and I have a daughter now. She's 18 months old, named after his mother who lived because I was good at my job, not because I was dating her son. We're raising her to understand that worth isn't measured in followers, wealth, or family approval. It's measured in the lives you touch, the integrity you maintain, and the boundaries you set. Mom has met her granddaughter twice, supervised visits in neutral locations. She's different now. Therapy has stripped away the performance. But trust, once shattered, leaves sharp edges even when you try to piece it together. Emma had a small wedding last year, 30 guests instead of 300. Brad left her after the scandal, but she married a teacher who doesn't have Instagram. Kevin says she's different too, humbled maybe, but still unable to apologize. The hospital created new policies about protecting staff from harassment, called the Miller Protocol. It includes social media monitoring and legal support for targeted healthcare workers. I speak at conferences now about dignity in the digital age, about choosing silence over spectacle. David's helicopter still makes appearances at the hospital, but now it's for emergency transfers. We drive a Honda to work, eat at the same Italian place, live in a modest house despite what we could afford. Because the point was never the money. It was the truth. Your worth doesn't require anyone else's validation. Your truth doesn't need their belief. Your dignity is yours to maintain, regardless of who tries to take it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well, quietly, on your own terms. That's my story of how a helicopter ended years of family mockery. If you've learned anything about setting boundaries, or if you've faced similar disbelief from loved ones, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What would you have done differently? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of quiet strength and ultimate vindication. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their truth doesn't require anyone else's validation. Until next time, remember, dignity is always the best revenge. Thank you for listening to my story. Stay strong out there.